In the final days of the great Aramite Empire, when the sun scorched the deserts and the cities of stone burned with the fury of men, the people had long forsaken the Lord. They bowed before golden idols, kissed the feet of statues, and whispered to false gods, believing that power alone could bring salvation. But the Most High, who watches over the dust of the earth and the cries of the innocent, beheld the darkness, and spoke unto the heavens, saying, The sins of Aram have reached even unto my throne. Yet amidst the ashes I see a spark of light. I shall send forth a servant, a man of clay and blood, to proclaim my word and bear the flame of righteousness. His name shall be Azariel, son of a humble potter in the valley of Baran, and through him my voice shall reach the hearts of men. Azariel was born under the waning of a blood-red moon. His first cries mingled with the winds of the desert. His father, Elam, was a potter whose hands were hardened by clay and toil, shaping vessels that would carry water to the thirsty and oil to the lamps of the meek. His mother, Mira, was gentle and devout, singing songs of the Lord as she tended their small home. From his earliest days, Azariel sensed a presence that lingered at the edges of vision, a whisper in the wind, a warmth upon the sun-baked earth, a glimmer of fire in the midst of a dry tree that should have been lifeless. One night, as the stars pierced the black dome of the heavens and the wind carried the cries of the desert, Azariel fell upon his knees, and a voice like the rolling of many waters spoke unto him, Azariel, son of dust, fear not. I am the Lord, who formed the heavens and the earth, who breathed life into thy lungs. Go forth, for I have placed my word upon thy lips, and a fire within thy hand. Thou shalt confront the darkness, and through thee men shall know that I am the living God. Azariel trembled, tears streaking the dust upon his cheeks. O Lord, he whispered, I am but a man of clay. I have no power, no wisdom to speak before kings and armies. And the Lord answered, It is not might that I choose, but humility. The words shall be mine, and the flame shall burn within thee. Fear not the armies of men, nor the legions of darkness, for I shall go before thee. As dawn broke upon the desert, casting a golden fire across the sands, a mark appeared on Azariel's right hand, a flame of pure light, shining as though molten gold. It did not burn the flesh, but warmed his spirit. He knew then that he was chosen, marked for the work of the Lord. The Aramite Empire stretched across vast lands, its kings clothed in blood-red robes, its armies trampling the innocent. King Nimrod II, who styled himself son of the fire god, had erected a colossal statue of himself in the center of the capital, wrought of gold, that the people might tremble and bow. Every day countless souls were forced to prostrate before it. Those who refused were cast into pits of burning coals. The priests of fire governed through fear, proclaiming that only the flames of Nimrod could save the faithful. Yet whispers of Azariel's coming spread like desert wind. A man from the valley of Baran speaks of the one true God, who requires not gold nor sacrifice, but faith. With his staff of gnarled wood and a water-skin upon his shoulder, Azariel journeyed through ruined villages and smoke-choked streets. Where his feet pressed the earth, children followed, old men wept, and soldiers sneered. One day he came upon the city of Zerah, where a woman was bound to be thrown into a fiery pit for proclaiming the Lord's name. Azariel stepped forward. Raising his hand, the desert wind rose with a great roar, and the fire in the pit was extinguished. The people cried out, "Sorcery! A demon!" But Azariel spoke with a voice calm and terrible. "It is not I, but the Lord who created the wind and the fire. He desires not the blood of the innocent. Return to him, O people of Aram." The woman was freed, yet soldiers seized Azariel, dragging him before the throne of Nimrod. The king, draped in gold and pride, gazed upon him. "Who art thou, that thou darest quench my fire?" he thundered. "I am but dust and clay," Azariel replied. "Yet the Lord Almighty burns within me. He has no need of gold, nor of sacrifice. His word is light unto the blind, and sword unto the unjust." Nimrod laughed, a sound like cracking stone. "I see not this God of thine. I am the God of this land. I burn whom I choose, and spare whom I will." Azariel looked upon him with sorrow. "Yet the day shall come when thou shalt see, O king, that thy fire is but smoke, and that only the true light can conquer darkness." The king, in rage, ordered him cast into the pit of flame. But the fire did not touch him. Smoke billowed, and men cried out in awe, for there stood Azariel in the midst of the flames, eyes shining like the sun. And from the midst of the fire came a voice like the roar of 1,000 waters. "I am the Lord. The one I have chosen shall not be harmed. The sword cannot fell him. Darkness shall flee before his name." The people fell upon their faces. Nimrod trembled with fear, yet his heart remained hardened. Azariel emerged unscathed, and word of the miracle spread through the empire like wind through the dunes. He walked through the cities, speaking to the oppressed, healing the sick, and turning the hearts of the stubborn. In the night, angels descended upon him, invisible to the soldiers, shielding him from arrows and swords, whispering courage into his ears. Demons and agents of darkness rose to challenge him. Serpents of shadow slithered across the sands, and shadows of the dead tried to seize the living. But each time the light of the Lord flared from his hands, casting them into retreat. He confronted armies that sought to destroy the innocent, and with each step the earth trembled, the winds obeyed his command, and the seas parted to allow safe passage for the fleeing. Cities that had been plunged into darkness saw the dawn rise as if for the first time. Fountains flowed with water pure and sweet. Children laughed once more amidst ruins. The deserts even seemed to bow beneath the mercy of the Lord, as if the very sands remembered the covenant of old. Nimrod, in his fury, attempted one last assault. He gathered his treasures, his armies, and his dark enchantments, marching against Azariel in the greatest battle the empire had ever seen. The sky darkened, lightning struck the banners, and demons of shadow poured forth from the mountains. Yet Azariel stood firm, his hands alight with divine fire, and he raised his voice to the heavens. "Lord Almighty, command thy power upon this wickedness." A great wind tore through the ranks of the enemy. Lightning fell from the sky, striking false idols and unworthy kings. Darkness fled before the light, and the legions of evil were vanquished not by the strength of men, but by the will of the Almighty. When the battle ended, Azariel walked among the survivors. He did not strike, did not boast. He merely guided them to build again, to serve the Lord faithfully, to remember that power lies not in the hand that kills, but in the hand that heals and teaches. Years passed, and the deserts grew green once more. Cities thrived in justice and mercy. And though Azariel eventually departed, his name remained, spoken with reverence, the servant chosen by the Lord, who brought light where darkness ruled, who walked among men as dust and clay, yet bore the fire of heaven in his hands. Thus the Lord's work was fulfilled. The oppressed were freed, the wicked humbled, and the light prevailed against the darkness. And all who heard of Azariel remembered that the hand of God moves through the meek, the humble, and the faithful, that no power of men nor darkness can overcome the will of the Almighty.
Azariel moved tirelessly across the scorched lands, the heat of the sun pressing down upon him like the weight of the world. The villages he passed were scarred by war, their walls blackened and crumbled, their inhabitants haggard from famine and fear. Yet wherever he walked, a strange calm followed, and the people whispered among themselves, speaking of the man with fire in his hand, who bore no sword yet conquered the hearts of the oppressed. The Lord's guidance never left him. In the dead of night, when the moon rose as a pale lantern above the desert, Azariel would kneel and hear the voice of the Almighty instruct him on the path ahead. The instructions were often perilous: to confront armies, to enter cursed lands, to face creatures of shadow and despair, all for the sake of bringing light to a people who had long abandoned righteousness. One evening, as he approached the city of Vereth, a host of dark beings emerged from the mountains, wraiths clothed in mist, their eyes hollow voids, their voices a chorus of despair. They swirled around him, whispering lies and fear. "Thou art mortal, thou shalt fall, thy God shall not deliver thee." But Azariel lifted his hands, and the flame upon his palm blazed like the sun. "The Lord is with me," he declared. "Depart from his servant, for your darkness has no power here." The shadows recoiled, shrieking, and the desert wind carried them away like sand before a storm. From the heavens, angels descended, unseen by the eyes of men, their presence a shield of light. They whispered courage, guided his steps, and even in his exhaustion, Azariel's spirit was renewed. As he entered Vereth, he witnessed the cruelty of Nimrod's governors firsthand. Children were beaten for missing prayers to idols, and the streets were filled with beggars, their eyes hollow and lifeless. Azariel went among them, placing his hands upon their heads, and they felt warmth and hope flow through their veins. Water gushed from broken fountains, food appeared where none had been, and the suffering found comfort in his presence. Word reached Nimrod, and he raged like a storm. He summoned his generals and his sorcerers, men who had mastered fire and shadow, commanding them to destroy the one who dared oppose him. They set traps along Azariel's path, sandstorms thick with ashes and illusions, beasts twisted by dark magic, and soldiers clad in enchanted armor. Yet for every trap laid, Azariel overcame with faith and guidance from the Lord. In one valley, he faced a battalion of fire-wielding soldiers. The ground beneath them cracked and shook, arrows turned to dust before reaching him, and the flames they hurled were extinguished by an invisible wind. Azariel raised his voice. "Cease this oppression, for the Lord does not command death to the innocent. He commands life and justice." Several soldiers fell to their knees, overwhelmed by fear and awe, while others fled, their hearts turned. Azariel pressed onward, walking through the battlefield, blessing the wounded and comforting the dying. And though his body ached and blood stained his garments, his eyes burned with divine purpose. Beyond the battles, Azariel faced the test of temptation. A figure cloaked in beauty and shadow appeared, claiming to offer him dominion over all lands if he renounced the Lord. "Why suffer from men who will betray thee? Take power, take glory, and the world shall be yours." Azariel fell to his knees, sweating and weary, but he whispered a prayer, and the figure dissolved into smoke, leaving behind only the scent of desert flowers. The journey led him to the great river of Ashara, where the waters had been poisoned by Nimrod's priests. Villagers had grown ill, their cries echoing across the banks. Azariel dipped his hands into the tainted river and prayed, his voice carrying the authority of heaven. The water shimmered with light, turning clear and pure. The sick drank and were healed, their strength returning, and they fell to the ground praising the Lord. As he approached the capital, Nimrod prepared his final assault. The king's throne room became a place of dark summoning, and armies assembled from distant lands, their banners blackened by curse and sorcery. The sky turned a deep crimson, lightning striking without warning, and demons poured forth, clawing at the earth and men alike. Azariel raised his hands to the heavens. The sun broke through the clouds, casting rays upon the battlefield. Angels, now visible as beings of light, descended in formation. They clashed with demons, their swords of flame striking true, illuminating the desert with brilliance. Every spell cast by the priests of darkness was met with divine counterforce. Every arrow loosed against him shattered mid-air. Amid the chaos, Azariel moved through the fray, touching the wounded, shielding the innocent, and speaking words of courage. "Fear not, for the Lord is with you. Rise, children of the desert, and walk in righteousness." King Nimrod confronted him directly, riding upon a chariot drawn by horses whose eyes glowed with fire. The king's voice thundered, "Thou art but a man. How can the word of thy God stand against my dominion?" Azariel's eyes blazed. "I am a servant of dust and clay, yet the Lord Almighty walks with me. Thy power is fleeting, his light endures forever." Lightning struck Nimrod's chariot. The horses reared, the king fell to the sand, and his golden crown shattered. Azariel stepped forward, extending his hand, and the king's armies froze. Many knelt, others dropped their weapons, and a great peace descended upon the battlefield. When the last of the shadows had fled, Azariel stood amidst the ruins. He did not boast, for glory belongs to the Lord alone. He guided the people to rebuild their cities, restore the waters, plant crops, and teach the children of the Almighty's mercy. The desert, once scorched by war and shadowed by sin, bloomed anew. Rivers flowed, flowers rose, and the people's hearts were softened toward God. Years later, when Azariel's work was complete, he walked to the eastern dunes where the sun rose over golden sands. He turned to the people he had saved, now flourishing in justice and devotion, and spoke one final time. "Remember the Lord, for he is the light. Forsake wickedness, walk humbly, and the darkness shall never overcome you." And as he departed, a great wind carried his words to the farthest corners of the land. The children sang of him, the elders remembered him, and the empires that once thrived on fear and oppression crumbled into dust. Azariel's flame, though mortal in form, became eternal in legend, the chosen of light, a servant through whom the Lord's justice, mercy, and power were made manifest. Thus, the deserts of Aram, once scorched by war and shadowed by sin, became a testament to divine providence. The light had triumphed, not by sword or gold, but through faith, humility, and the unwavering hand of a servant chosen by God. And all who heard of Azariel knew that even a man of clay could wield the fire of heaven, and the Almighty's will is stronger than any darkness that walks the earth.